One's up. TV guys ready to go?
What happened to our TV? Did they take it out and give us these?
What's the TV guy's name again? Joe? Got their microphone on. Okay, Joe, let's start it. Good. Well, good morning, everyone. This is the 29th of June, 2023, and the hearing this morning is for the Jackson County Planning File number 439-23-00005-LRP. Do we take roll first, I guess, or? Okay.
Tom Lavanino,
Here.
John Elliott,
Here.
Sarah Wallen Daly. Here.
Great. Roll call's done. Approval of minutes is the next on the agenda, and this is from April 27. Anybody have any comments, edits, corrections? It was pretty straightforward and simple. Okay, hearing none, I make the motion to approve the minutes from April 27th, 2023. No edits.
Do it by unanimous consent. Never mind, second.
Okay, second?
Sure.
Okay. John has seconded it?
Tom Lavanino,
Yes?
John Elliott,
Yes.
Sarah Wallen Daly. Yes.
Awesome. Back to the admonishment. So this is a public hearing today on a minor comprehensive plan and zoning map amendment for an exception to the statewide planning goal 11 to allow the connection of an RVSS, Rogue Valley Sewer System, sewer line, and to add the subject property to an area of special concern, ASC 2003-1, Goal 11, exception areas. So there are a number of items that I must address prior to the start of this hearing. Approval criteria used in making this decision are listed in its entirety in the staff report. So please direct your testimony and evidence toward the applicable approval criteria. You may also direct your testimony to other criteria or policies of the comprehensive plan, land development ordinance, or other land use regulations which you believe apply to the decision now before the Jackson County Planning Commission. So remember that failure to raise an issue by anyone accompanied by statements or evidence sufficient to afford the Planning Commission and other parties an opportunity to respond to the issue will prevent appeal on that issue to the Land Use Board of Appeals. All participants who wish to speak must sign up on the sign-up sheet provided. And there's one available by the microphone, I assume. The county is making a verbatim recording of the hearing. In the event of an appeal, it will probably be necessary to transcribe it. So therefore, when you testify or comment, please speak loudly and clearly so that your testimony will be recorded. Begin by identifying yourself so that anybody reading a transcript of the record will know who is talking. We will need to have you clearly identify yourself with name and address for the record. Any written comment or other items of evidence must be submitted to the clerk to be marked as an exhibit for the record. So the procedure this morning will be as follows. First, the commissioners will indicate whether or not they've had an ex parte contact or have a conflict of interest. Second, we will have a report from the county planning staff, and commissioners may have questions of the staff at that time. Third, we will hear from the applicant. Fourth, we will accept testimony from the public. Fifth, the applicant will have an opportunity to respond to any testimony or evidence if requested. The testimony from the public and agencies will be limited to 5 minutes. I don't think we'll have a problem this morning. Anyone needing more time to testify than allotted should submit their additional comments in writing. And finally, once everyone has an opportunity to speak, the public hearing and associated public record will be closed unless the public hearing is continued by the commissioners to a future date. And once the public hearing and public record are closed, the chair will call for deliberations prior to making a decision. At this time, I'd like to ask all the commissioners if they have any ex parte contacts or conflicts of interest.
I have none.
I have none.
I have none. Okay. Staff report from Charles.
Good morning, Commissioners. Good morning, Commissioners. Direct your attention to the TVs. We have a short PowerPoint presentation. This is a pretty simple case before you. Charles Bennett, Planner 3, 10 South Oakdale, Medford, Oregon, 97501. The application before you requires an amendment to the Jackson County Comprehensive Plan by taking an exception to statewide planning goals, public facilities and services in order to connect an approximately 14.56 acre EFU zone property located on Hanley Road in Central Point to a Rogue Valley Sewer Services sewer line. Approval of the proposal would result in adding the subject property to the Area Special Concern 2003-1, Goal 11 exception areas, which is considered a minor map amendment. So the subject property is located just west and south of the city of Central Point, which is within the urban Central Point's urban reserve. The Central Point Little League is just south of the Boy Scouts of America. And the subject property is zoned EFU, and surrounding properties are either EFU or rural residential as shown on the map. Staff received a handful of comments from residents in the notice area with concerns and questions about activities on the fields, including the homeless camps and night lighting. That's in the record. Staff stated that this proposal is not reviewing nor approving any new ball field changes. Rather, this application is for existing uses that have the ability to utilize sewer service. There does not appear to be any other concerns from residents, except we have an applicant or a resident here today who may wish to speak. But regarding specifically of the sewer connection, I didn't really see any objections to it. So Goal 11 exception criteria are found in the OARs, require the county to adopt findings that demonstrate why there is no practical alternative to a sewer system connection, while also ensuring that the connection will not lead to serving uses other than those justified in the exception. The applicant has provided evidence in the form of a septic system feasibility letter, page 74 of the record, that demonstrate that there is no practical alternative to a sewer connection for the uses on the subject property. Staff finds that the proposed sewer connection can be justified based on no practical alternatives to sewer service for applicants' use, and there is a sewer line that is currently runs through the road that's has access to the frontage. In addition, the restrictions inherent with the zoning district, the county has adopted provisions within section 3.63 of the land development ordinance that severely limit the extension of sewer lines without justification. The proposed connection cannot be used to justify levels of development inconsistent with what would otherwise be allowed in the EFU zoning district. So the evidence submitted by the applicant supports the approval of an amendment to the comprehensive plan map for an exception to statewide planning goal 11. And for these reasons, staff recommends approval. Should the planning commission agree with staff's recommendation, a recommendation of approval will be forwarded to the Board of Commissioners for further consideration, the next step. Thank you. Yeah.
Good.
Charles, can I ask you some nitpicky questions?
Yes?
Or not
Of
nitpicky
course.
questions?
Okay.
So is a private park allowed use on EFU ground?
A private park.
Isn't that what this is designated?
It is a non-conforming, this is a pre-existing
Okay,
non-conforming park.
that's my question. This is a pre-existing non-conforming use.
Correct.
So as they attempt, now this is kind of outside the scope of what we're doing today, but as they attempt to refurbish this place, rebuild it essentially,
Yes.
will that affect that pre-existing non-conforming use?
They will have to go through an expansion or alteration of a non-conforming use for the redevelopment,
But it can still remain a private, probably still remain a private park
yes,
as a non-conforming
yes.
pre-existing use. Okay.
It will
thanks.
continue, it's, yeah.
So this next question kind of has to do with the sewer. On page 35, it says, and in other places, it says the sewer main now is adjacent to the property. On page 36, it says the sewer main is on the property. So which is it?
And this is in the applicant's findings that you're discussing. Let's see, on page 36, you say it's on the property. Where do you, let me see.
Oh,
where
I'll
that-
have to go to the, it's in the second paragraph.
My understanding is not on the property itself, proper, it's in the right of way of the road in front of the property.
Okay, that brings up the next question. The implication, the implication is in the whole application that the sewer main is there to be tapped. But that isn't what Rogue Valley Sewer Services letter says. It says the sewer main has to be extended.
So a technicality in the goal 11, or the way that I understand it, is that an extension is any component that from a main sewer to be anything going for any pipe is considered. I'd have to pull up the goal 11.
I think the letter says the main has to be extended.
Well, actually, let me. That's Rogue Valley Sewer Service recently extended the main. So
Since this
maybe
letter was
since this
written.
letter, I guess that's what you're asking. Yeah.
Shouldn't we have that in the, as an amendment? I mean, because that's quite different from what the applicant has said, which is that the sewer is there. And I'm not disputing that it's there, but their letter doesn't say it's there.
Well,
Rogue
I
Valley
can let
Sewer
the.
Services letter doesn't say it's there.
Yeah.
Look on page 66.
Yeah, I mean, maybe the applicant can address that as well. But basically, let's see, this is February 2023. I mean, it talks as Rogue Valley Sewer Service has reviewed and approved construction plans to extend the 8-inch sewer line. So that's been done. You were requesting a letter that says that
No,
it's
I'm saying that they're saying the main has to be extended.
right in February. I guess it had to be in, but I think they went in April. I'm not exactly sure when they completed that project.
Under what kind of authority was that done?
It's in the right of way. It's their own that with
No,
the
no,
roads
I mean,
department.
why did they do that?
I
Were they going for some other property, or were they, I guess I don't understand, because it's in the urban reserve, right? There's no reason to extend the sewer unless there's somebody wants to hook up to it.
Well, I can't speak for Rogue Valley Sewer Services and what that project entailed. The details, I mean, the city might have been involved with that. I know that I think there's, if I recollect, the city and Rogue Valley Sewer Services work together on the sewer system in their kind of vicinity.
So what you're saying, though, is the letter that's in the packet isn't accurate.
It has not been updated, I guess. Yeah, because you could say that.
I guess that's what I'm saying. Why, shouldn't it be? Shouldn't it be accurate, what we have to look at? Because it looks like the sewer main isn't where the applicant says it is. Now, it might be very well, but from the letter we have in the packet, it doesn't appear to be that way.
I guess so.
You're
Yeah.
shrugging, Charles. I don't think that's appropriate. It either is or it isn't.
So,
If I can interject here, how about we have the applicant
Yeah.
answer some of those questions? You're asking Charles to put his opinion on what he thinks North Valley Sewer wanted to do, and that's why he's shrugging.
Charles said that has been updated. I'm asking for the proof.
Okay, how about we let the applicant address that?
yeah, the only reason I know about it, well, let's see here. I wonder if there was the roads department. I'm trying to recollect. I mean, this has been a little while. If does roads have comments in this record? Let's see.
They do, or it does. There are comments. They don't make any about the sewer that I can.
They don't mention anything? Okay.
Mm-mm.
Well,
I'm going to let you off the hook, Charles. I want to point out that it's really important that somebody reads all this stuff and that it makes sense. I mean, either the sewer line is on the property or it's adjacent to the property, one or the other. It says both in here. Either the sewer main has to be extended or it doesn't.
well,
It says here it does, and it says in the applicant's materials that it doesn't. So it's either one or the other. And it's your job to bring us information that's accurate.
okay.
And I just want to make one other thing. I really am going to let you off the hook. It says here in the applicant's, and you reviewed and used the applicant's materials for your thing, that the main reason for doing this is that it would be too expensive and impractical to do anything else. I submit to you that almost every zoning thing in existence is too expensive and impractical. So why do we use that suddenly as legitimate criteria?
Well, it was also a part of that criteria was that so when they originally put in the park, I think this was prior zoning, they had trouble with septic systems. That was the capacity of it. So that was also a major component of it, was that the capacity of the soil for this would be impractical to have a commercial septic system out there. So I think that's a significant reason for the
Well, I guess
impracticality
I
of it.
I'm not disputing that. I'm saying that in almost any other land use issue, if somebody says, well, this is impractical, the powers that be say, too bad. If they say, this is really expensive, the powers that be say, too bad. That's the rule. Well, suddenly here, it's not the rule.
I would submit to you, John, that you're asking for an exception. The planning commission's
Okay, that's fine.
accept that
My
as-
point is that
What
there
you're
are
getting
other
from us-
legitimate criteria.
What you're getting from us, John, is a recommendation. If you disagree with that recommendation, you can vote no on it.
I'm not necessarily disagreeing with the recommendation. I'm disagreeing with the criteria that were used to arrive at it.
You get to determine that.
No, he does. You do.
We gave you a recommendation. If you do not agree with the recommendation, you do not have to.
I'm not talking to you anyway. So there's one other thing I wanted to ask about. No, maybe I won't. That's all. Thank you.
Okay, so we'll hold that comment until Dan gets up, and maybe he can explain it in a minute, as far as extension of the main or not, which of the two is correct. So, any other questions, John or Sarah? Okay, I have none, so let's jump into Dan, and you can make your presentation, please. I don't know.
Oh, is that working? Yeah, there we
so,
go.
yeah.
Good morning. My name is Dan O'Connor. I'm with O'Connor Law. I represent the City of Central Point. My office address is 670 G Street, Suite B, Jacksonville, Oregon, 97530. So I mean, Charles, on the presentation, the plan is, and I'll jump into Commissioner Elliott's questions. So basically, this is the first step. The subject properties in the urban reserve. There's been this baseball field that's been in relatively poor condition for some time. And so the next step is we will be submitting a land use application for either an alteration or expansion of the non-conforming use. The plans aren't done yet, but they should be done in the next 6 weeks, and then we'll decide which specific application type for the use. Just generally on this, is the plan is to basically renovate the baseball fields, and the city's planning on spending $5 million to do it. And in terms of when we submitted the application, the sewer line was not extended to the property. And you guys may have seen, driving out in that area, the road that, I can't remember the name of the road. Was it not? Yeah, was under construction. One of the neighbors will testify, the last 3 or 4 months. It just completed, maybe a month ago at that. At that point, when they did the road work, they extended the sewer line and they extended a water line, is my understanding. And that was RVSS, and they have their utility plans and they install it, and it only makes sense because you don't want to do the road work, come in and cut it. And so the line is in the right of way adjacent to the property at this point. There's no actual connection to the property at this point, but it is in the right-of-way.
How much further is it extended?
You know, I don't know the answer to that question. Maybe the neighbor that's here can, but it seemed like the work did not extend that much further past our property to the south. And I'm sure part of the utility planning for RVSS and with the water extension is because this property is in an urban reserve, it is dedicated in the future to urban uses, and that's why the work was done. But we're here today because to allow us to actually connect to that sewer facility under the Goal 11 exception. I don't recall if Mr. Bennett put up the exceptionary map. This, for some reason, this property was excluded from the exception area when it was done, early 2000s. I can't remember when that whole general remapping was done. And so there's a checkerboard of exception land all around it. And with the history of this property is this baseball field's been here, I want to say since like late 60s, if even before. They tried to get a functioning septic system to work on that property way back in the 70s. The ground doesn't perk, whatever. We have the consultant letter. And that's why the porta potties have been there. And then the porta potties, I mean, clearly when we get the extension, we're going to remove the porta potties, do real bathrooms, because porta potties are an attraction for homeless. They don't smell good. And that's why we're here to connect this. And then as to Commissioner Elliott's comment about the impracticability, well, there's more to that in the Goal 11. That's really not, I don't think it's a fair characterization to say that's a standard that, you can't use. But what has been happening, especially with farm processing facilities, is that even DLCD and Thousand Friends acknowledges, why would you take acres of land out of resource use to accommodate, substandard perk soils? Because when I do a commercial system, the drain field is expansive. And so I've been in front of this commission several times, especially on more of the intensive agricultural processing. One that comes to my mind is the flower growing operation on the north side of Ashland, where we did the processing. If we were going to do a commercial septic system, it was going to take approximately 30% of their prime farmland out of agricultural production. That's why, a lot of times you'll see this, on that's the position we take, which is allowed through the rules. And so that's my answer to that. And so this is just a pretty straightforward Goal 11 exception to let us connect to the sewer line. I spoke with the neighbor here, is that to explain to them, because there was some comments from neighbors like, hey, there's not much information relating to what you're proposing. And that's because we don't even have the plans yet. We haven't put together the land use application for the upgraded development of the property. And we will reach out to those owners and coordinate with them, get their feedback even before we submit for that alteration of non-conforming use. And eventually, the non-conforming use, once it comes into the city, will become a conforming use, once, probably be zoned like park use or something like that, once it's in the city. And so basically, I'm here to answer any questions you may have. Otherwise, that's the end of my testimony.
I'll be nitpicky some more. I'm not against the proposal, by the way.
Okay.
In your application, you make it pretty clear that the anticipation is there will be a big increase in usage in the park once it's remodeled, once it's renovated. And yet, in your letter to ask that a traffic study not be required, you say that nothing will change. So I guess I'm on a quest today to get this body accurate information.
Okay.
And I know that we aren't talking about the traffic study. It's a peripheral issue. But it's just incongruous that you say one thing to one body and you say one thing to another body just to get your way. I would rather you had said to the traffic people, yes, there's going to be huge increases, we hope, when this is done. But it isn't going to affect the traffic pattern anyway, because even a huge increase isn't that much. Rather than to say, no, it's all going to be the same. And then on the other hand, say, yeah, we anticipate income from this thing, and we anticipate all this stuff to happen, which will be a big increase in usage. So that's just one more thing that bothers me today.
Okay, and Commissioner, I mean, on that, and I'm thinking back, like, because the fields are all there, the facilities are there, right? I mean, everything is there. It's just in really poor condition. And I'm thinking back, without going through the record, are we going to have a huge increase in the scope of the use? No. I mean, because I'm limited by my non-conforming use, and if I do an expansion of a non-conforming use, it's subject to challenge. And so, I mean, I'm sure the city, the plan is that there'll be a more consistent use of the baseball fields and facilities. I just don't know where, I mean, it's that we gave the impression it's going to be this huge expanded level of use.
You talk about bringing in tournaments, bringing in tourists, having employees, when you talk about the economic impacts.
Right, and so
So that implies to me that there's going to be more use.
that's correct, but I wouldn't say it's going to be a huge jump up in use. I mean, the tournament play, I mean, I can't say on this baseball field, I go by, I haven't really seen it used much lately. But, and then with the employees, that's to provide security, we're getting ahead of ourselves, but just so because of the homeless problem that we face here. And so Commissioner Elliott, I'm just saying, we're not trying to bamboozle anyone on this. I mean, you may have the impression that all developers are corrupt or trying to get ahead somehow, but I'm just saying this is the city just moving forward with this project and being open about it as the best we can. And we're saying this is our goal, and this is the first step to achieve that goal.
Thank you.
Dan, didn't I read in there that there's 6 ball fields currently, and you're going to go down to 5?
Yeah, they're reducing. It's RH2 is working on the final planning, but that they're actually reducing the number of fields. But I don't want to say something and say, because I could be in front of you later, and so, but the intention is that, yeah, it is, they'll reduce the number of fields, but really the overall plan is to upgrade this facility. I mean, U.S. Cellular Park, and I'm not saying we're doing a U.S. Cellular Park here. That is not the thing. But to have a facility that matches it in quality is the intention here. And let's not forget, it's for the kids, right? I mean, it's these tournaments with the older crew. I mean, that's fine too, but the primary purpose, because you guys have history here, and we've seen what that baseball field has looked like and it's not acceptable to have, our children playing in. So, anyway.
Any other simple question? The owners are the softball club of Medford or something? It's what's your organization?
Oh, I can't. It's like the city attorney, Sidney Dreyer, and the city and the former, or I don't know if they're still currently the operators, they've got some big agreement where the cities basically can come in and take over.
Well, they're the leasee, I think, right?
Yeah,
They're going to
some-
lease the property from the owner, which is the softball club or whatever.
I think it's baseball association of some sort, right,
Some kind of generic,
Right.
sounding thing, yeah.
right. And so that's been the rub. That's been the rub for several years, is that this entity, and I'm not pointing fingers or laying fault, is the inability, the resources to maintain, improve and maintain the facility in the way it should be. And that's why the city stepped in.
Has the city been the leaseholder, for lack of a better word, for quite a while?
No, I don't know, Stephanie, do you know on that? I'm not sure, I just don't have that answer. I mean, the city, my understanding is, because I've been to several meetings out at the property, and this gives you background, this has gone over for a year plus about, and this is my understanding, if I'm misstating it, I apologize in advance, is that the city is going to become the tenant and take on the
The
responsibility.
Central Point Little League Association owns the facilities.
Yeah, and then the
And-
city would become the tenant.
The implication was that the city was the, I don't want to say the leasee because I don't know that's the title, but was in charge of it somehow, was responsible for it.
Yeah, I think, I'm not, maybe I shouldn't even answer. I don't think that's accurate. I
Is the
think,
city your client?
yes.
So they are.
Yeah,
taking
no,
charge.
they're taking over, but in
Yeah.
the past, it wasn't the city of Central
Sure.
Point managing it. Moving
The little-
recently
yeah.
and moving forward,
Thank you.
you're exactly right.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Thank you, Dan.
Okay, I'll reserve rebuttal. I don't think I'll need it, but just in case. Thank you.
Okay. Next step in the process then, we'll open the public hearing. I guess we did that already. And accept testimony from the public. We have D. Lynn McGoffin signed up to speak tonight, this morning. You were a neutral position. Could you get up here and say, could address it, and name and address? And
My name is D. Lynn McGoffin. I live at 2938 Hanley Road, Central Point, Oregon, 97502. I will add that my family's lived there since 1959, so we've seen all of this that's being discussed take place. My kids played, I coached, I managed. So, got a little experience with it, lived directly across the road from the property in question. The only comment I would have, and I guess it would just be a comment, between Mr. Elliott's questions and comments and Mr. Bennett's replies and what Mr. O'Connor said, as a resident, and I'm not trying to speak for the residents because apparently I'm the only one here, I just was curious. I don't know if there's any way, it's been brought up with like Mr. Elliott's comments. The residents, we're all kind of looking around like, what's happening here? I don't know if there's any way or who would try to organize the entities involved to where at least the residents that are taxpayers could get some straight information. I mean, the project was completed the last day of March, which was about a month ahead of the original schedule. It's been repaved, striped. There's been a few guys back out there doing a few little odds and ends, mainly on the fire hydrants that were installed. But nobody knows when, how, do we hook up, can we hook up? So it'd be nice to have the residents be a little more in the loop with information from all the entities involved, Rogue Valley Sewer, City of Central Point. That's really my only, I guess I would like to call it a suggestion, and I don't know whose responsibility that would be to get everybody on the same page. I understand Mr. O'Connor's comments today about what they're wanting to do. Seems a little backwards to me. I would have thought the application would have been done first before the project may have even been started. But I'm just, I work on cars for a living. I'm not a politician. I'm not a, I'm not a commissioner of any kind. Just a suggestion, if there's some way to get a little more accurate information to the residents. Oh, and by the way, this question was asked, and I can provide a little information. My property is on the east side of Hanley, directly across the road from the Little League fields. You look right out my driveway, you're looking at the concession stand and parking lot. The project ended almost at my property line with my neighbor to the south of me. So the line itself was extended basically to the south edge of my property out in Hanley Road.
How far is that? What's the distance?
From my driveway to my neighbor's boundary, probably, gosh, I guess probably 50 yards.
Not very much.
Not
Okay.
very much. I have a very narrow property.
So you're saying you and other neighbors would like to hook up to RVSS?
Well, the stubs are all in. I mean, it's there for whoever wants to hook up to whatever service.
It wasn't before, but it is now.
Yeah, since this project was completed, yeah.
And Charles,
The
can you speak to
construction.
that just generally, if, even though they're in the urban reserve, if the sewer is there, can they apply to hook up to it, do you know?
They can apply, yes, it would be the same process.
So you should go talk to Rogue Valley Sewer
Well,
Services.
and Mr. Elliott, I have. I tried to get ahead of the game back in late January, early February, because, and I'm not trying to beat the proverbial dead horse, but because of the lack of information, I've talked with City of Central Point and Rogue Valley Sewer. And I've gotten the information I need. The stubs are all there. We're all just waiting for, okay, when do we make these applications? How do we make our arrangements for if we get our own contractor to do the trenching, piping, and then, of course, the county would have to do their approvals and inspections, of course. We all understand that. It's just a matter of, well, the project's done out in the road, but now what?
You say we, how many people are involved with this? Would like to hook up since the expansion?
Between Beale, where the four-way stop is at Hanley and Beale, south towards Jacksonville, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 9, possibly 10, and I would probably include the Boy Scout offices in that. But the rest are just residences.
So in the future, it might be a possibility then.
Oh, yeah. And there is some interest, I know, at least, this is just neighbors visiting back and forth, you know. But again, my basic, I didn't intend to speak today, but it all came out with Mr. Elliott's questions and Mr. O'Connor's comments. The residents, I think, would just like some kind of, a little more information, like an update or something. And it doesn't fall to you, I don't believe, to see that happen. But if there's any way the entities involved could get some information to the residents, I think it would be appreciated.
That's a step in the process today by your public testimony, and this is a public meeting for all residents or non-residents to comment on it and voice your opinion, so.
Okay. But thank you very much.
Thank you. Dan?
Hello, Dan O'Connor, not really rebuttal, but Oregon land use, like he says, this process is backwards, and it is. Like on a city development, I wouldn't be taking care of my sewer stuff before I have my land use entitlements. But that's just the nature of the beast in Oregon. And so, and in speaking, I'm sorry, with the prior speaker, it's like, you know what, we should have done a better job at that point. It's just because in moving forward, and as I discussed with him, hey, we will reach out to him. We'll reach out. We have with our notice, we have the contact information for all of these neighbors, and the city of Central Point will reach out to them, set up I do these informational meetings just to kind of, hey, this is kind of what we're doing overall, because it's, for these owners, it is confusing. It's like you get this, it's a type 4 review. It's a big application, but it's not saying anything because it's specific to utilities. And then you have the real application later. So this is my commitment to the commission, that we will step it up and we'll get something together with these and explain. The one concern is the Goal 11 exception process. It's a pain. I mean, it's $20,000. I mean, that's what it costs. And guess a big chunk of it, and I'm pointing at you guys, is your application fee. I mean, it's what, $6,000-$7,000, altogether. And so, just even though this is beyond the scope of what I'm supposed to be talking about, if I were a neighboring property owner, this property's in the urban reserve, it will be coming into the UGB. Once it comes into the UGB, this exception application process is no longer necessary. I'm just trying to, hey, don't spend the money, it's coming your way.
That brings up this
Yep.
peripheral too.
Yeah.
Would these residents have to apply for an exception since they're in the urban reserve and not in the urban growth boundary?
Exactly. And so it's like they would, and that's why we were frustrated because, and I'll bring the goal exception mapping to when we meet with the neighbors, because like I said, it's a checkerboard. It makes no logical sense as to why, I mean, poor sewer areas are poor sewer areas. They don't checkerboard. And so, but you're right. Until they come into the UGB, they would need to go through this specific process and pay the county the application.
Could they do it as a group?
You could. It gets a little,
So you can kind of counsel them on that.
well, I won't, but I'll just generally, just
Yeah.
just a little bit.
Sure.
And so, and what they should do and we'll, like Stephanie Holtai, the planning director for Central Point, is here with me today, is what we'll do when we have an informational meeting with these neighbors, we'll just, hey, this is the forecast for the property coming into the UGB. We'll give them a bunch of that useful information that if you're not involved in land use, you would just never know, right? I mean, we are in a weird world. So, okay, I'll leave it at that unless you guys have any other questions.
One other one is probably not pertinent, like you were talking about today's action. One of the public comments was addressing the homeless issue. That has nothing to do with the sewer system, but they were requesting secure fencing around the whole ball field.
Yeah.
You have any comment on that? That's not with today's issue, but to address the public, what do you got?
Yeah, so with the fencing, I don't know specifically on the fencing on baseball fields. Like, because then the thing is, because I used to play baseball as a kid, if you have secure fencing, when people weren't playing tournaments and stuff, we would be on the field playing baseball. And so I'm not sure about the security fencing because it just eliminates that ability. But that is the key reason why we're going to have employees on site. And it won't be like the concessions, okay, we're getting in the application, but I mean, we're just talking here. Council, shut me off if you need to. But it's like, that's why the employees, you got to have a presence. And that is, I mean, they have maintenance crews that can come out and be gone in a couple hours if they do their maintenance. But one of the main discussions that we had with the engineers and the stakeholders in that is to have employee presence at the site, basically at all reasonable times, to avoid the homeless issue that we face, not just in the county. I face it at Northgate. I face it everywhere. And so that's
But no residence plan for employees?
No.
24/7 presence. It'll just be daylight hours or something, and
And then, because it's the beauty of Central Point, right? We have the police department, and then each of these neighbors will be given contact information, non-emergency, if there is a homeless and then Central Point PD will just respond and take care of it.
And the restroom facilities, when you get hooked up, will be locked after hours.
That's the thing, because it's a sad state. They, homeless will just take over the porta potties and make them their house. And so, which creates a problem. Okay, thank you.
Awesome. That concludes the testimony from the public.
Does she want to testify?
Pardon? Oh, come on up and, yep.
This kind of goes back to the communication and or the lack thereof, or information that's available. In speaking with Rogue Valley Sewer, I was advised to come down here, and this is just basically for your information. So I spoke to them about the application procedure for hooking up to sewer. The Title 11 and all of these different and types of applications was discussed. I was informed here, and this was back in late February, early March, the application I would have to pay for was well over $5,000, plus an $888, I believe it was, pre-application conference. But yet, when I went back and spoke with Rogue Valley Sewer, because my impression was, boy, there's going to be a bunch of unhappy folks on Hanley Road when they find this much, plus the contracting, the pipe, the everything else needed, if they chose to hook up. Rogue Valley Sewer said, no, that's the wrong type of application. You need this type application, and supposedly it was only $133. So here again, who are we supposed to believe about which type of application and whatever? And that's just for the commission's information. Again, as a taxpayer and debating hooking up to one or both services, I need the correct information, if nothing else from a financial, economical standpoint. I need to know. It's not practical to spend over $6,000,
I think
much less
Mr.
the
O'Connor
hookups.
has volunteered to meet
Yeah.
with your group.
And I heard him say
help
that.
you
Yeah,
through that.
when that time comes.
Those
But again,
questions.
and I agree with what he said. These land use things are totally backwards. They are, and they're very confusing for just a resident. So, and I'm only speaking for myself. Thank you.
If I may comment. If I could comment to your comments, this is on. Yes, it is very expensive, and that's because it is a goal exception. The idea is they don't want sewer services put into the rural resource areas. So that's why we're here having the exception, and it's the nature of Oregon land use law that's the way it works. To the part of the development, that's why things are backwards, because Mr. O'Connor and his clients can't really develop a plan of what they're going to do unless they know whether they have sewer service or not. Definitely going to affect what the plans look like. So it does change it backwards. I can't speak to what Rogue Valley Sewer Service told you about our fees, but I would say that when you talk to us, you're going to get accurate information of what application we would require. So.
Dan O'Connor, I'm just waiving any further rebuttal right. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, well, that concludes that part of it. We need to admit the exhibits. Patty, how many exhibits do we have now? Or 26?
They're, more than the ones we were informed about. Okay. Mr. Chairman, I move we enter exhibits 1 through 26 into the record.
Okay. I'll second that.
Tom Lavanino,
Yes.
John Elliott,
Yes.
Sarah Wallen Daly. Yes.
So, close the public hearing and conduct the deliberations.
Do you want to make a motion, Sarah? Just read it off that. Yeah. No, make a motion.
Hey.
Then we can talk.
Or not tonight.
No. Just, yeah, just.
Okay. Mr. Chair, based on the evidence and testimony, I move that the Jackson County Planning Commission approve a recommendation for approval to the Jackson County Board of Commissioners Planning File Number 439-23-00005-LRP, adopting a minor comprehensive plan and zoning map amendment for an exception to statewide planning goal 11 to allow the connection of an RVSS sewer line and to add the subject property to the area of special concern ASC 2003-1, goal 11 exception areas.
Second.
Tom Lavanino,
Yes.
John Elliott,
Yes.
Sarah Wallen Daly.
Yes.
Awesome. Thanks for your participation this morning. Now we get into the next item on the agenda, which says adjourn, but there must be something else we can talk about. So business from the commission members, anybody,
I'm finished with my rant for the day.
I had some email correspondence with Chandel asking about the program of work for 2023, when it's going to be scheduled. It won't be this time, and next hearing's the 27th, I think, of July. Thank you, Dan. I won't, no, the 13th, I'm sorry, isn't it? I won't be here for that. I'll be on vacation, so that's that. So we won't be able to hear it until September, October, for a program of
You
work.
mean we won't have a quorum?
No, well, I don't know about that. But I'm just talking about a program of work. Here it is, almost the 7th month of the year, and we don't have a approved program of work, so we need to catch up on that. That's one of my concerns, to get it done earlier in the year, so we know what we're getting, instead of the 10th
Maybe
month
we
of the year.
just skip 23 and in September
That's what I
talk
thought.
about
Yeah,
24.
or do a twofer.
There you go.
So anyway,
So-
that's pending.
Chair, I guess I'm a little confused on that statement. We had the session with the Board of Commissioners that listed what our work plan for the year was.
A draft plan.
Yeah.
And I was hoping we would have input and opportunities to complete the final program work.
Well, that draft plan is our best guess on what we have coming up. There was also stuff that came out of the legislature, which just ended on Monday.
Sunday.
Yes. So there's a couple things on there. One of them we had put on as tentative, and that was the ADU in residential areas. That did make it into the work plan. There are some other things, potentially residential being allowed in a commercial building if it meets certain low-income thresholds where we can't consider zoning. There's a few other probably minor text changes that we're going to have. Right now, we're following, it is law, so we follow it anyway. It's a matter of getting that written into our ordinance so that it is something that's usable for the residents. But the draft work plan pretty much was our best guess on what we had. The only thing that we don't know on that is what the timing is going to be, because priorities shift, and some of that depends on applicants' priorities too, on
Right.
when they put things in.
Or are you saying then that the staff will determine the work plan? Tom was interested in the commission having some input, but you're implying that the staff will just decide the plan.
Well, the plan is these are the things that need to get done during a year. When I say the priorities change, some of that is not dependent on staff, that's dependent on the applicant, if it's something like a subdivision or something that we know is coming up, we don't necessarily control the timing. The only thing that we really get to control is what comes next based on what gets scheduled and how we can fit it in. So there are things like the ADU stuff that we're definitely going to be addressing, but if there's something that comes up that is a development issue, like a subdivision that needs attention, we're already following what the state law tells us we have to follow. Something like that may get pushed back a little bit to get wording for our text amendments in the LDO.
Is that what you're talking? You aren't talking about normal hearings, are you?
No,
talking
no, no,
about-
we
Yeah.
don't control that. You don't know it until, a month
Right.
beforehand, It was a couple items in there, not just a program of work, but the training opportunities for 2023. And, not everyone was present at the Board of Commissioners meeting. Not all the commissioners were present for the Board of Commissioners meeting. So that didn't get relayed back to you guys to know what we're doing.
So,
And the training opportunities, and the ADUs, and the pending legislation in the future.
yeah, the ADUs and that stuff will be as the schedule allows. I mean, the commission only meets so many times, so we have,
Right.
that's what I'm talking about, the calendar there. As far as the training opportunities, I'll make sure that gets scheduled. I know we have Sarah on board here, and I do actually have from the last training session we have, I have a binder that I was planning on getting a copy of to you. It's just basic. Yes.
Looks like that.
Yep, looks like that. And, yeah, we can start scheduled training, and that definitely will be on your schedule.
Good. I just didn't want things falling through the cracks. We're kind of late in the game with the meeting with the Board of Commissioners too, and it just, we're getting, I feel as the chair, I need to bring that up. Not
Absolutely.
complain, but just say, okay, this is our mission, and this is what we're intending to do, and we're a little behind the schedule. So that's all.
Yeah.
No big deal.
Absolutely. You are the chair, correct the whip when you need to.
Good. Any other items for the board? We don't have, they don't have, or next meeting is the 13th of July. And do we have, the thing I'd like to know is if we have a quorum or not. I still, I emailed Chandra, said I'll be here today. It's been one or two times that we didn't have a quorum. I showed up and, we had to go home and postpone the meeting. Is there a way, like a week ahead of time, to get a confirmation from the commissioners that we do have enough for a quorum? It must be a process. Uh-huh. Right, well, and phone is not predictable,
Right, she always makes it very clear. If you're not coming, tell me.
And that doesn't happen all the time, yeah. All the commissioners don't follow that rule.
Correct.
So it's like a gap in the system. It'd be nice to plug it, to make sure we have, yeah, there you go. So, okay. Did you have anything? No? Then we are adjourned unless I'm missing something. Thank you.